Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you may notice I move my hands and my arms a lot when I'm talking. I'm forever gesturing around. And I thought, well, let's try and dig into this. Let's see if I can understand why am I gesturing like this? Well, I will be honest with you, I have tried lots of things to try and reduce this, to try and reduce the amount of moving my hands and my arms. Even going as far as sitting on my hands. But one of the things I have found when I do that, and I don't know why, is I struggle to talk. It's as if my hands and my mouth are in some way related. So I thought, let's dig in, let's have a little bit of investigation into this. The first thing to say, it is normal to use your hands when you're talking, and this forms a really important part of the whole communication flow. Studies have shown that people who gesticulate when they're talking, they're considered to be more agreeable, more warm, more friendly. Whereas those who don't gesticulate, they're often seen as being cold, logical, and maybe even overly analytical. Not gesturing, or keeping your hands clasped in front of your body, I've seen some people who've got their hands steepled like that, they can sometimes be an indicator that people aren't really engaged. They're struggling to recognise any critical issues, and they don't really understand how crucial it is to have body language and gesturing to help with the communication. You need to be aware of your words and gestures to make sure they're matching each other. If your hands are expressing one thing, whereas your mouth, your speech is saying something different, it can lead to a lot of miscommunication. So, you could be given a thumbs up sign, but you're saying, no, that's horrible. Who knows which one's true? Because we're used to thumbs up being a good thing. So if your hands are expressing something different, you need to be aware of that, and you need to try and fetch them together so they're timed at the same time. It's really important that you link up your communication like this because it helps you to appear to be as open as you possibly can be. There are a number of reasons why we need to gesticulate, why we need to move our hands and our arms. First, as we've already really said, it's used to enhance our communication. We use our hand and our body gestures and use them to emphasise and to clarify what we're saying. Look what I'm doing. I'm emphasising. I've got my fingers together like they did in the ancient Roman times that we hear about when they're trying to emphasise a point. Their hands are together, they're reaching out. It's just something that we normally do, isn't it? We also use gestures to convey our emotions. Have you ever been with someone who's excited? Their arms are going like this 9 times out of 10, aren't they? They're rapid, they're expansive. Whereas someone who is very unhappy, unexcited, they might be stood there with their arms crossed and you can see they're blocking whatever's happening. We do have to be careful. There are distinct cultural differences to gestures, and they do vary between cultures. So what to us might be a thumbs up a good thing, to another culture might be the deepest insult going. And this is the danger. The same gesture can have different meanings in different cultures and could easily lead to misunderstanding. It's also thought that hand gestures, they formed through our evolution. They're likely to have been really important with our non-verbal ancestors, where they didn't have the capability to speak, but they could use hand gestures. They could point out things. They could indicate that they're happy. They could indicate they're sad. And that evolutionary trait, we've maintained that. But why do we use our hands so much? Well, when we're speaking, our brains, they're processing many different things at the same time. We need to be selecting the words we want to say. We need to be structuring them into a grammatical structure. We need to be thinking about our tone of voice, our facial expressions, and our body language. And that all helps to convey our message and the information that we want to pass over. As we've already seen, using our hands is very helpful in clarifying and emphasising our message. Think of things, like I've already said, thumbs up. When we like something, the emphasis as if we're passing over the information. We cross our arms, we're not convinced, we're stressed. We pull our collar, we might rub our legs. that's an indicator of anxiety. When we've got a document, when we've got a presentation, we might point to specific paragraphs, phrases, or even images to emphasize specific points. And this list goes on and on and on. Research has been undertaken to see if there are any psychological reasons for us gesturing. Now, some research, it's shown that by moving your arms, by moving your hands, that actually aids us to think and to express ourselves more clearly. And, as I said earlier, this is where I struggled when I sat on my hands. It was as if I just could not talk. Gesturing, it does stimulate multiple areas of the brain. These include those areas associated with language processing and with memory. There have been studies carried out using EEGs and MEGs, that's the magnetic equivalent of an EEG, and they've shown various areas within the brain that are triggered when we're just speaking and when we're speaking with our hands, and they have identified differences. It's not possible to be too accurate with this because EEGs and MEGs only give you part of the picture. If we wanted a really detailed picture, we'd need to use an fMRI machine. But the problem with that is you have to lie still. So you wouldn't actually be able to gesticulate because you're meant to have your hands by your side and not moving. So it's not been possible to do that fMRI study. As we've already said, gesticulating, gesturing, helps you to organise and clarify your communication. There's been a study that it's shown that the use of gestures help to make a message more memorable. What the study did, it demonstrated that where we're using gestures, it's more likely that the information presented will be remembered than when the same information was presented but without gestures. There was a paper issued in 2021 that was in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, and that detailed some experiments that looked at the use of hand gestures in communication. What it found was that when the gesturing is done right, it affects the way that words are received. They found that 20% of viewers, they were more likely to have heard and interpreted syllables correctly when matched with a gesture. But it also found that if the syllable and gesture were mismatched, then 40% of the participants heard the wrong word. In 2015, there was a study carried out looking at TED Talks, and it found that presenters that used hand gestures were more popular than those that didn't. The popular presenters used approximately 465 hand gestures. That was more than double the amount used by the less popular ones. Now, I found research in this one really interesting because I know I gesticulate a lot. My hands, they're always going, they're always flying about, and not so much in my videos, but quite often if there's a lot of stuff around, I'm banging into stuff with my hands when I'm talking. So, yeah, really interesting, this one. The end result, though, I don't need to worry about it. It's very normal to move your hands when you're talking, and it aids so much when we're trying to communicate. It allows you to get that message over, to make it nice, clear, and emphasize the areas, look, my emphasis fingers there, where you need to. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. This has been so fun. Do you gesticulate a lot? What do you think about people when you're seeing their hands going all over the place? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.